So let us continue the remaining portions of capital gains. What we have discussed so far in the capital gain is charging section, section 45, then meaning of capital assets, section 2, clause 14, then meaning of transfer, section 2, clause 47, then transactions which are not treated as transfers, section 47. And in the last lecture, we have seen the impact of this section 47, that when the assets were given as gift by one person to another person, the person who has given the gift at that time, income under the head capital gains was not computed in the hands of that person who has transferred this asset. Why? Because of section 47 clause 3, which says that such transactions where the capital assets have been transferred because of gift, will, etc., then these are not treated as transfers, and if these are not treated as transfers, there is no need to compute income under the head capital gains, even though transfer is taking place. But since this transfer as per section 47 is not treated as transfer, I didn't compute capital gain in the last example when one person transferred the property by way of gift to another person. So we have seen the impact, what a strong impact section 47 can be having when the capital assets are transferred. Because of section 47, though legally assets are transferred, but you are not supposed to compute any income under the head capital gains. Is it clear? Please raise your hands. Okay, so what we have covered, I am repeating this point. Section 47, charging section, meaning of capital assets, meaning of transfer, transactions which are not treated as transfer. And after this, fifth heading which I discussed in the last lecture was kinds of capital assets. There are two kinds of capital assets, long term or short term. On what basis you decide whether an asset is short term or long term is on two factors. First, type of capital asset. What is the name of this? If I say type means here I want to equate type, the word type, with the name of the asset. What is the name of that capital asset? What type of asset is that? And its holding period. When I am having the exact knowledge of type of capital asset and its holding period, then I can easily take a decision whether the asset is short term or long term. Is it clear? If yes, please raise your hands. Do you remember this point? That type of capital asset and holding period, both when I am having, then only I can decide whether the asset is short term or long term. Okay, so I was discussing in the last class one point that it is not always so easy. It is always not so easy to determine the holding period of the capital asset. For special types of cases, we are having separate provisions written in the act that how do you determine the holding period of the capital asset. So in the last lecture, I was discussing this heading, how to determine the holding period of the capital asset. And in this heading, I have discussed first special case, whenever the capital assets have become the property of the assessee because of the circumstances mentioned in section 47 subsection 1. And what circumstances have been mentioned in section 47 subsection 1 are transfer by way of gift, will, inheritance, etc. In such cases, how do I determine the holding period of that capital asset? The period during which this capital asset, which I have received because of circumstances mentioned in section 47(1), the period for which such capital asset was with the previous owner, that period also will be included when I will determine that the period during which I have actually held this asset. So the period for which the previous owner acquired it, or the period for which the previous owner held this property, held this asset, that period is included as my period also when I will compute the period for which I actually held this capital asset. Is this point clear? Raise your hands. So now I'm continuing with my second special case. In the main heading, how to determine the holding period of the capital asset. For this, I need to share with you my screen. Okay, so this main heading I was discussing. So I'm still continuing with the same heading. This is the heading which we will still discuss, how to determine the holding period of the capital asset. This is the discussion which is still continuing. How to determine the holding period of the capital asset held by the SSC. And within this heading, I discussed first special case, all those assets which have become my capital assets, my property, because of the circumstances mentioned in 49.1. In these cases, when I determine that for how many years or months I have held this asset, I will include that period also during which such assets were held by the previous owner. So now second point or second heading, second subheading, you can say another special category which might give you a little bit confusion. So now in case of capital assets, second heading. In case of a capital asset which becomes the property of the SSA, in consideration of an amalgamation. That means when amalgamation happened, so do remember, I'm discussing this heading. If you want to read the act, can you tell me from where I'm reading this heading? Do you remember from where I'm reading this heading? It is explanation to section 242A. 242A, yes. If you remember, this heading was telling me, this section was telling me the meaning of short-term asset, and in the same section, these are the explanations that how to determine the holding period of the assets. So I'm simply using that section's explanation, but in a simplified form. That is the only point. Now I want to, again, without telling you the provision, let me give you an example so that logically first you should try to tell. So I'm discussing an illustration from my book. Concept building approach, page 7.8. On this, we have this illustration, and you try to tell me logically. Let me read this illustration for you. Just listen. Mr. X, who has purchased 100 shares of B Limited. Mr. X, this person has purchased 100 shares of B Limited. Just think logically. Mr. X, who has purchased 100 shares of B Limited on 20th July 18. Now, what happened after some time? After around 2 years, on an average, on 30th June, what happened? 2020, what happened? B Limited amalgamates. B Limited amalgamated with C Limited, and C Limited is an Indian company. Amalgamated with C Limited in lieu of 100 shares held by him. No, Indian company under a scheme of amalgamation, and Mr. X received 20 shares in C Limited. Now, what happened because of this amalgamation? X, who was having 100 shares of B, now he received, in place of 100 shares, because of amalgamation, he received only 20 shares of C Limited. On 30th November 20, what happened? So when amalgamation happened, this person received 20 shares, and now it was 2018, then 2020 came. On 2020, I received 20 shares, so let me write it here itself. X received 20 shares of C Limited. X received 20 shares of C Limited because of amalgamation, and on 30th November 20, what happened? Approximately after July, August, September, October, November, approximately after 5 days of amalgamation, what happened? I being X transferred these 20 shares of C Limited. So I sold, it is my right, I can sell the shares at any time. I sold my 20 shares in C Limited. I sold. I sold 20 shares in C Limited. Now you tell me one thing. First of all, I want to ask a question. In the previous year, 2021, who is the assessee? First thing, who is the assessee? Can you tell me who is the assessee here? Who is the assessee?
Mr. X.
Mr. X, yes. Because Mr. X is the seller. So yes, Mr. X is the assessee. Now, which type of asset is this? Let us assume that it is a listed company. So which type of asset is this? If I want to know the name or type of the asset, these are listed shares. For listed shares, can you tell me how many months are required to be short term?
12.
12 months. So holding period must be 12 months for short term. Now, can you help me in determining how will I determine holding period? Till when? Can you tell me till when? Till 29th November 20. From when? Can you tell me from which date I will start?
20th July 2018.
Why? Why 20th July 2018? Why not 30th June 20?
Transfer, not a transaction.
Transaction, not a transfer.
Transfer, a transaction, not a transfer.
Point clear? And
Yes.
logically also, see what was happening. Now just think in your mind what was happening on 30th June 20. do you imagine what was happening on 30th June 20? On 30th June 20, company got amalgamated. On 30th June 20, B Limited got amalgamated. A new entity has come, C Limited. So at that time also, B Limited must have transferred some assets. Ignore these shares, these are the shareholding of Mr. X. B Limited must be having its own assets, own land, own building, own plant and machineries. So many things must have been transferred to C Limited. So right now I'm talking about Mr. X, but in this case, in the same year, we must not forget that B Limited also is the assessee, or could have been the assessee. Are you getting my point? Coincidentally, here in both the years, two things are happening. So there could have been two assessees logically. On 30th June 20, when assets were transferred because company amalgamated, so land, building, plant and machineries, other things all ceases to exist. It is a transfer technically. Transfer doesn't mean only sale, exchange, relinquishment. So many things are there which is transfer. Technically, B Limited should have also been treated as an assessee, but because of its section, no income was computed. Do you know? No income was computed in the hands of. Can you tell me in the hands of what I will write here? In the hands of? In the hands of whom?
B Limited.
B Limited. On which date? On 30th June 20. Under which head? Under the head capital gain, because this transaction of amalgamation was not treated as Mr. X is altogether a separate case. In the same example, technically you must learn these points also. Was not treated as transfer as per which section? As per which section?
49.
49 to कोई section is sense का ही नहीं. 47. And which clause? Though you are not supposed to learn these clauses, but I want to show you this point. Amalgamating company to Indian amalgamated company. It is 47 clause 6. Though you are not supposed to learn these clauses, but you must know what is going on in every transaction. At that time on 30th June also, why B Limited didn't become an assessee? Logically, B Limited is also transferring the assets, its assets. But there was no need for B Limited to pay tax, to compute income under the capital gain, because as per 47, such transactions are not treated as transfer. Now my chapter is over. This is one part of the story. It's over. I am discussing about Mr. X now. Well, amalgamation happened. X was not at all bothered. On 30th June, nothing happened with Mr. X. The only thing which happened was, earlier he was having 100 shares of B Limited. Now he is having 20 shares of C Limited. And there are very less chances that there is any loss to Mr. X. Because if 100 shares were of having rupees 2000 value, where one share becomes 20 rupees, if I'm getting here 20 shares, the value here is approximately 2000. But the value of this share becomes 100 rupees. So it's only an example only. You should not compare only on the basis of number of shares. You should not assume that the value of amalgamating company, per share value of amalgamating company, is as it is equal to per share value of amalgamated company. Normally the company, these two are different things. Amalgamating company and amalgamated company. Normally, shareholders doesn't lose anything when amalgamation happens. In fact, sometimes there can be gain also. So that is not my purpose of study. So I'm not going into that detail. The only thing which with Mr. X, what is happening is on 20th July 18, Mr. X was having 100 shares, and on 30th June 20, Mr. X is having only 20 shares, and now on 30th November 20, he became an SSC because he transferred those 20 shares. My question to you is, logically, if you say that, or if X says that holding period should be when I received the shares in C Limited on 30th June 20, then it is unnecessarily like penalizing the shareholders who didn't want to sell the shares at that time when amalgamation happened. So logically, shareholders could have raised a question that why you are taking our holding period from 30th June, why you are not taking. They could have asked a question to the government that why you are not taking our holding period starting from 20th July 18, because they will say that amalgamation happened between the companies. We didn't sell any share, so logically we are having the shares of the same company, because this company is nothing but a result of amalgamation from 20th July 18. So logically, the holding period in such cases does not start from the date when shareholder has received the shares in the amalgamated company. The holding period constitutes or includes the period for which the shareholder was having the shares of amalgamating company also. So the holding period in this case will start from 20th July 18 till 29th November 20, and since this period is more than 12 months, the asset is long-term capital asset. Those who do not know the concept, they would have started this from 30th June 20 and they would have written it as short-term asset, and their entire question would have been wrong. So why the relevance of determination of holding period of the asset is relevant, you can see in this question. If people don't know the concept, they will start the holding period from 30th June. They will write this as short-term asset. They will do the calculation assuming this asset is short-term, but in reality and logically also, this asset is long-term. So what I will write here now, if I will tell you this concept, the concept is exactly same which we have applied without reading the concept. What we have applied logically is what is written in the act. So what is written in the act is the period for which the share, so I'm using the language which is comfortable, so I'm taking the language from my book. The period for which the shares in the amalgamating company were held by the SSC shall be included so now same thing, then remaining language is same, while determining the period for which the capital asset was held by the SSC. So that you can write to yourself, while determining the period, it's same language, for which the capital asset was held by the SSC. Please raise your hand if this point is also clear logically as well as per the language of the act. So I'll proceed to the next point. Okay, please raise your hand if this is also clear. Now you can understand the relevance of determining the holding period, why it is relevant. Next point. So, heading number 3, 6.3. Now, third point talks about some shares. You must remember that so many times we have been allotted right shares. If I am having existing shares, on that basis, when my company comes into the market for raising the money, they first offer, normally the companies first offer some right to the existing shareholders, that if existing shareholders want to apply first, they can purchase the shares, then we will go to the market. That is known as the right shares. And so many times what also happens, suppose I am having the share, like I am having some shares in Reliance Industries. Last year, I think, Reliance came with the, Reliance wanted to raise the money, so they gave some right to the existing shareholders. I also got some right, but I didn't avail that right. I didn't want to invest in that company. So what option I had at that time also, I can give this right to my another known person to whom to any person to whom I want. So what I can do as an existing shareholder, I can not only purchase the shares which have come to me before these shares are going to the market. If not interested, I can also transfer my right to another person, and I can earn the money by just transferring the right to that another person. So in those situations, how do you determine the holding period? Let me make you understand this also with the help of an example. So for this heading, you leave 4 or 5 lines blank, and then let me discuss with you. Heading I will write later on. Leave 5 lines blank, and then just logically, let me give you an illustration from my book, and logically we will compute the period of holding. Page 7.8. Just you have to think logically about this. What is happening in this illustration that I will show you. Mr. K had 1000 shares of R Limited. So there is a person K who has these shares in R Limited, a listed company. On 20th March 20, on this date, I'm having the shares. That means on this date I'm having the shares. 20th March 20. How many shares I am having? 1000 shares. I have on this date already 1000 shares. And these 1000 when I have purchased these shares on 18th December 2007. On the basis of holding of 1000 shares, since I am having 1000 shares on 20th March, R Limited offered me 100 shares at 60 per share. I got an offer of 100 shares. Just on the basis of 1000 shares, I got an offer that if Mr. K wants to purchase 100 shares, they can purchase it at 60 rupees. This offer is nothing but right offer. I have been offered a right. On which date I have been offered? 20th March 20. On 20th March 20, I was offered. On 22nd March 20, K accepted the offer of 70 shares. Just within 2 days, what I did. On 22nd March 20, remember this 2020 is not in my previous year, so I'm discussing a question only. On 20th March 20, I accepted offer of 70 shares. I accepted 70 shares, and on the same date, I transferred my right. That is known as renouncement. Renounced. I have given this right to some other person. I have renounced the right of 30 shares to my friend or to anyone whom I want. To Mr. L. But I have not transferred this right to Mr. M free of cost. I earn how much? Lump sum 150 rupees. I said that if you want to purchase 30 shares, you can purchase it from the company on my recommendation, because I can give this right legally, but you give me 150 rupees lump sum. So I earned 150 rupees also. On 20th March 20, what happened? So this chain is going on. First this date. Then on the same date, I received the offer. Just within 2 days, I did one thing. Now company allotted me the shares on which date? 28th March 20. So let me write here. This is first portion over. Second discussion. Third. Now fourth portion starts. Fourth portion on 28th March 20. R Limited allotted. So I actually got the shares. R Limited allotted 70 shares to me. 70 shares to Mr. X and 30 shares to Mr. M, whom I have renounced my right, in whose favor I have renounced my right. So this stage is also over. Now what happened? Next stage on 26th March 2021. Now it is next year. All that happened in 2020, but now something is happening after 1 year approximately. On 26th March 21, what I did? Mr. K sold how many shares? All the shares. Which all? 1000 original I had and 70 right shares, which I just received around 1 year ago. I sold. Mr. M also transferred the shares, but Mr. M transferred it on 30th March 21. He also sold these 30 which he received as right. Now can you tell me now, so these are the 5 stages. Can you tell me now who is the assessee in the previous year 2021? This is my first question. So I will solve here this question. Oh, there I had to write the heading, but no issue. I will do the solution here. Can you tell me who is the assessee? In the previous year 2021. Who is the assessee? Think and tell me who is the assessee.
So both K and M?
Yes, both K and M, because K also sold the assets on 26th March 21, and M also sold the asset on 26th March 21. So both are the assets. For 1000 shares, I might be having different holding period. For 70 shares, I might be having different holding period, because both these different number of shares were purchased on different dates. My heading 6.3 is talking about right shares. So I will talk about only these right shares, not about 1000. That is not a part of 6.3. So the rule says that when the person or the period during which I held these right shares is based on the date when I was allotted these shares. So as Mr. K, when Mr. K got these shares, what is the date of allotment? 28th March 20. In this case, there are different dates. Offer date is different. Acceptance date is different. Allotment date is different. So out of these three dates, which date is relevant? Act clearly says that the date when the shares were allotted. So for Mr. K, for these 70 shares, the period is 28th March 20 till when? 25th March 21. Now these are listed shares, so I am concerned with 1 year period. Since this period does not exceed 1 year, so 70 shares, this asset, what is the name of this capital asset? 70 shares. It is short-term capital asset. And for Mr. M, when the shares were allotted, right shares, 28th March 20 till when? Till when? So he sold it on 30th, so I will write 29th March 21. Here also it is 25th March 21. So this period is also, not also, this period is more than 1 year. It is more than 1 year, and it exceeded that limit by 2 days only. But still, it is long-term capital asset now. This is what my heading 6.3 is. It talks about right shares calculation when the shares, when the capital asset is a right share. Then in that case, how do you determine the period of holding? You start from the date of allotment. That's it. So only one line. The period for which, or the period for which asset was held by the assessee. The period for which the capital asset. What is this capital asset? Being right shares. What is the name of this asset? Being right share. Was held by the assessee. Will start from the date of allotment of such shares in the not the date on which offer was given, not the date on which I accepted the offer, but the date on which I actually got the shares from the company. Such shares. This is what my 6.3 is. Heading is how to determine the period of holding in case of right shares. In case you have any problem, you please ask me. Otherwise, please raise your hand if this is also clear. Now in the same example, as far as these 1000 shares are concerned, how do you determine the period of holding? Can you tell me, for these 1000 shares, how do you determine the period of holding? What is the period of holding for these 1000 shares?
So from 18 December to 25th March 2021.
18 December 2007 till 21st March.
So 25th.
Yes, 25th March 2021. But this I'm calculating on my own. Okay, so this calculation is simple. It is not based on heading 6.1, 6.2 or 6.3. How to determine the period of holding is only in some special cases. Otherwise, in normal cases, you can easily check. Like in this case, it was very simple when I purchased it and when I'm selling it. So you must remember that while determining the holding period, I'm not applying these concepts. To determine the holding period of 1000 shares, I'm not using 6.1, 6.2 or 6.3 because 6.1 was for previous owner concept, 6.2 amalgamation, 6.3 right share. So this 1000 is simple share. It is not a right share. So just don't assume that everywhere you have to apply the theoretical concept when the asset was, how to determine the holding period. In most of the cases, it is very simple. I'm discussing only some special cases. Please raise your hand if what I have just said is clear to you. That how to determine holding period in most of the cases is very simple. You can easily check. Only problem arises when there are some special cases. Now in the same question, you are missing one more sale. Can you tell me which one more sale I am missing in the same question?
So renouncement of right shares.
Yes. This 150 rupees which I have earned is also income under the head capital gains. I am selling the shares that I have counted. But when I renounced the right, that is also a capital asset. As you know the meaning of capital asset, everything in this world is a capital asset except some. So when you say everything is capital asset, so renouncement of right is also a capital asset because I am earning 150 rupees. So for this, how do you determine the period of holding? That is my heading number 6.4. My heading number 6.4. So heading number 6.1 was when the capital assets become your property because of circumstances mentioned in 49.1. Second was when the capital assets become the property because of amalgamation. Third, when the capital assets become the property of the assessee because of already held shares, because on those basis I got right share. And what is this fourth? Where the capital asset is that which is renounced in favor of any other person. What about that asset which is renounced in favor of another person? In the previous example, before writing the theoretical concept, in the previous example, Mr. K renounced his right. And how much he has earned? How much is the sale value of his right? 150. So the name of capital assessment is renouncement of right. Now you tell me whether this 150 on this renouncement of right, how do you determine the holding period? Whether this renouncement of right is short term or long term? How do you determine logically? Can you tell me how will you determine the holding period? Any answer? How do you determine the holding period? About this.
So there shouldn't be any holding period for Mr. K since he never really got those shares allotted to him.
No. Any other answer?
The date of offer to date of renounced.
ये तो आप बुक में से देख के बता रहे हो शायद.
No sir, book open ही नहीं की.
क्या?
Sir, I didn't open my book yet.
In this case, चलो अच्छी बात है, अगर ऐसा है तो how do you determine the period of holding? From the date of offer till you renounce the out. You cannot say that there is no holding period. Holding period is must. It might be of 1 day, 1 hour, 1 second, but you must be having the holding period. If you don't have holding period, you cannot compute capital gain. Because type of asset plus holding period, this thing will tell you short term or long term, only then you proceed. So holding period is must. So now in this case, the answer which you should write is, the holding period is when the offer was given to me, 20th March, when I sold it, 22nd March 20. So now you can understand the relevance of determination of holding period, that this is necessary for you to learn these some special cases, because if you don't know these special cases, your question might go wrong. 20th March 20 till 21st March 20. Though this will happen in the previous year 1920, that is another case, but you must know the provision. It will happen in previous year 1920, not in my year, but you must know the provision. So what answer you should write? Let me write the language. The period for which the capital asset. Can you tell me the name of this capital asset? Being the right. The name of this asset is being the right to subscribe. I had a right to purchase the shares, though I renounced it. Being the right to subscribe to a share or any security. This was the name of the asset. I renounced it. Was held by the SSC. Will start. Ending date is very easy. The provision says ending date is what? Day before the date of transfer. Starting date is problematic to learn or requires extra effort. Was held by the SSC. Will start. Will start from the date of offer of such right by the company. Please raise your hand if these 4 different categories, special cases of determination of holding period is clear. These are some special cases. Others, if not clear, please ask, otherwise raise your hands. You must ask your problems without any hesitation. If you don't ask, then you are not learning anything. So never be hesitant in raising any query. Now, next heading, bonus shares. So many times bonus shares are also given. In those cases, how do you determine? So my next heading is 6.5. Bonus shares.
Sir, can you show the previous slide for a second?
Yeah. Is this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, हो गया.
Okay. Now this is about bonus shares. Again, let me discuss through it with an example where logically you will decide. So illustration from my book, page 7.9. Just listen carefully. Mr. S had 2000 shares of T Limited, a listed company. Mr. S 2000 shares of T Limited, a listed company. On 17th March 200. I had these shares. I don't know when I have purchased it, but on this date, I'm having the shares, which he had purchased on 19th August 21. Oh, the date of purchase is also given. I purchased these (19th August 2021). Not 21, 11. On the basis of holding of 2000 shares, T Limited announced bonus in the ratio of 1:20 on 17th March 2020. On this date, what company did? So this is one stage, that is information. Stage 2. I'm using the word stage just to make a clear picture in your mind that different things are happening on different date. On 17th March, company announced bonus. Announced, not yet given, announced bonus. Ratio 1:20. So on this basis, logically, for 2000 shares, how much shares I will get as bonus? 100 shares. It's logical. On this basis, T Limited allotted 100 shares as bonus to Mr. X on 24th March 20. Now this is third stage. On 24th March 20, company allotted. On this basis, company allotted bonus of 100 shares. On 28th March 21, fourth stage is happening. On 28th March 21, Mr. S transferred. Now I sold it. I am Mr. S. I sold all the shares. What do I mean by all the shares? 2000 original which I was having and 1000 bonus. Just think logically. Don't assume that you are reading any or learning any typical subject. It's normal learning is going on. These points where logic must be applied. I sold these shares. Now you tell me. So I will do this solution. Who is the assessee in my year? Who is the assessee? Mr. S. Because in this year, on 20th March 20, he is selling the assets. Can you tell me now, how do I determine the holding period of 1000 bonus shares? 6.5 talks about bonus. Can you tell me, how will I determine the holding period of 100 bonus shares? Any answer?
24th March 2020 to 28th March 2021.
Why not from 17th March?
Because on 24th March, the Mr. S has actually the possession of the shares.
So there is no reason behind that. Income Tax Act says it that the period starts from the date of allotment. That's it. No need to apply the reason in each and every case. It's simple. Act says that start from the date of allotment, not from the date of offer. That's it. So I can say that in case of bonus shares, how do you determine the period of holding? The period for which the capital asset. Mute yourself. For which the capital asset? Which is this asset? Share. or security is held by the assessee. I should use the word bonus shares or security is held by the assessee. Will start from the date of allotment of such bonus shares or bonus securities. Why it is necessary for you to learn these things is, if you don't know the concept, some of you might start the holding period from announcement date and question might go wrong in such situations. I hope this point is clear. Please now, as far as original shares is concerned, it is simple. For original shares, the holding period is, I'm not applying any concept of heading number 6 for original share. It is simple. It starts from 19th August 2021, sorry, 2011 till this date is not 28th March. It is one day before transfer, 27th March 21. This is only a design. Anyhow, please raise your hand if this concept is clear. So I've discussed with you for the time being 5 special cases of determining the period of holding. Next case. Now remaining 2 cases I will give you for self-study. I will not discuss, I will give you the heading. You can read it from the book or from any other material which you are having or from the act yourself. So I'm telling you the source and you have to read it yourself. Those 2 remaining are self-study. I wanted to give you an idea that I have given, and now I think the picture is clear that what is the relevance of determining the holding period. In reality, there are around 13 to 14 cases, but we will discuss only 7 cases. 6.5, 6.6. So I will write only the heading and you have to read it yourself. Capital asset, in case of capital asset, which becomes the property of the assessee, in consideration of conversion of preference shares into equity shares. When an asset which gets converted into preference shares, so can you tell me what will be the name of that asset? This equity share will become the asset. Because when you convert preference shares into equity, what is the asset now? Equity share. So this equity share, how will you determine the period of holding in this case? It is self-study. I must give something for your self-study. Read it. Either from the act, if you are reading from the act, read explanation to section 2, clause 42A, or read from my book or any other book which you are having. Topic is this. This is for self-study. In case it is my book, it is given on page 79. In case any other book, please search for that respective heading. And last point which you must self-study is how do you determine the holding period in these cases where the capital asset is that which becomes the property of the assessee in consideration of conversion of debentures into shares. So ultimately, when in future you will sell these shares, you haven't acquired the shares. These shares you got because debentures got converted. So here also, asset is this. How to determine the period of holding of these shares when in future you sell it? Self-study. Read it on your own. So you learn reading the Act or any other book or material. Explanation. If you want to read it from the Act, read it from explanation to section 2 clause 42a. Otherwise, in my book it is given on page 719. In other books, please search for this heading yourself. With this, I wind up this concept, how to determine the holding period of the asset. If I prepare a flow chart, how you will proceed in the topic capital gain? How will you proceed? First of all, you must remember that it is covered under charging section. So this is simple flow chart. It helps you in doing the cases of practical capital gain. First, it is covered under section 45. This is first thing. If it is satisfied, then you will search that is it a capital asset or not. So you'll search for this definition. If it has become a capital asset, then what you will mainly search, whether it is a transaction which is not treated as transfer, if you'll find that it is not treated as transfer, chapter close. You will not proceed then. If you find that, so I'm proceeding with the flow chart, assuming everything is yes, yes, yes. If at somewhere no, you will stop or you will search for different options. If it is transaction which is not treated as transfer, if it has bypassed this test, you will search section 47. And if you find that it is the transaction which is transfer, suppose you find that it is transfer, then you will proceed further. If it is transfer, if you find that it is transfer, then your main concept starts. So you will search kinds. Which kind is this? Is it long-term capital asset or short-term capital asset? To determine whether it is long-term or short-term, you need two knowledge: the name of this asset, type of capital asset, plus holding period. These two knowledges will help you in telling you whether this asset is long-term or short-term. We have covered till this point only. You remember this sequence. First, 45, meaning of capital asset. If it is capital asset, check that it has passed the test of section 47, so that now you have to compute capital gain or capital loss. Then which kind is this, long-term or short-term? Long-term or short-term depends on two things: what is the type of this capital asset and what is the holding period. Now let us have 2 minutes rest, and now I will start with another topic, 7th heading, kinds of capital gain. I have discussed kinds of capital asset. Now I'll discuss kinds of capital gains. This I'll discuss now. So let us have 2 minutes break. 1 or 2 minutes break. Then I'll start kinds of capital gain. Meanwhile, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Within 2 minutes, we'll be starting. I'm just giving you 2 minutes for a small break.
Sir, can you move back to the bonus share slide?
Yeah, please.
Sir, the bonus share one.
Yes.
The bonus share.
Okay.
Thank you. Sir, what we see typically is whenever bonus shares are issued, the value of the share comes down due to increase in number of shares. So aren't we unnecessarily penalizing the shareholder in this case?
क्यों? उसको बोनस मिल तो गया, उसको लॉस क्या हुआ? अगर वैल्यू ऑफ शेयर्स कम हो गए तो नंबर ऑफ शेयर भी तो ज्यादा हो गए, उसको लॉस कहाँ हो रहा है? अगर एक शेयर, फॉर एग्जांपल आई हैड 100 शेयर्स एंड वन शेयर वाज ऑफ 200 रुपीस, so my investment was 100 into 200, 20,000. Company allotted shares, so the price comes down but number of share rises, so effect will be almost negligible, in fact little bit higher. In fact there will be some appreciation in the value, not a fall.
Anji. But when it comes to, let's say in this example, the 100 bonus shares which are issued, उस पे अब STCG लगेगा rather than LTCG.
अगर 100 शेयर्स बोनस मैं इशू करता हूं,
हाँ जी,
तो क्या लगेगा इसमें?
वो शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स अट्रैक्ट करेगा ना?
क्यों? क्या लग रहा है इसमें?
इस केस, बट किसी और केस में जिसमें 12 महीने से कम हो, बट उसमें तो फिर वो सर पेनलाइज नहीं होगा शेयर होल्डर?
तो मत बेचे वो और रुक जाए 12 महीने तक, क्या प्रॉब्लम है? जो उसको बोनस शेयर मिल रहा है, इसको जो बोनस शेयर मिल रहा है, ओरिजिनल शेयर तो आज भी उसके वही हैं। अगर उसको कुछ एक्स्ट्रा मिल रहा है,
हाँ जी,
तो बोनस शेयर्स आज उसको मिले, अगर वो 1 साल के अंदर अंदर बेच रहा है तो दे देगा शॉर्ट टर्म गेन। ओरिजिनल शेयर वो बेचता रहे, ओरिजिनल में आज भी अगर 1 साल से पुराने तो लॉन्ग टर्म ही हो रहा है, ओरिजिनल में उसका क्या नुकसान हो रहा है?
ओरिजिनल में नुकसान नहीं हो रहा, बट लेट्स से यहाँ पे ओरिजिनल का गेन भी कंसेक्यूटिवली कम हो जाएगा, है ना?
हाँ हो जाएगा, थोड़ा बहुत गेन कम हो जाएगा,
गेन कम हो जाएगा एंड वो उसका सब्स्टिट्यूट हो जाएगा 100 बोनस शेयर से।
ठीक है,
मेरा जो गेन 2000 पे LTCG लगता था, अब उस पे STCG लगेगा।
ठीक है,
तो वो मेरा नुकसान नहीं है जो एक्स्ट्रा STCG मैं पे कर रहा हूँ एज कम्पेयर टू LTCG।
मतलब नुकसान क्यों है? क्या STCG की रेट हमेशा लॉन्ग टर्म से ज्यादा होती है क्या? अगर मान लो मेरी इनकम स्लैब 5 लाख से कम है तो 5% लगेगा।
बट लेट्स से अगर मेरी इनकम स्लैब 30% से
कोई बात नहीं, अब कोई भी एक्ट ये थोड़ा ना कि हर चीज को देखते हुए बनेगा कि किसी का कोई प्लस या माइनस नहीं हो रहा, गवर्नमेंट को भी तो लॉस हो रहा है उसमें। ये लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन तो फ्लैट 1 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा 10% टैक्स लगता है, शॉर्ट टर्म गेन है तो बहुत ज्यादा कम लगेगा, इसमें तो लगेगा ही नहीं। हालांकि शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल गेन लिस्टेड शेयर के केस में 15% टैक्सेबल है।
हाँ जी, वही 5 एडिशनल 5%।
हाँ कोई बात नहीं, तो इसमें हर चीज के लिए अब ये नहीं कह सकते आपकी 135 करोड़ लोगों के लिए कोई ऐसा प्रोविजन बना दे जिसमें 135 करोड़ लोग ही खुश हो जाएं, ऐसा तो कभी भी नहीं हो सकता।
बट सर इस बोनस में मतलब शेयर होल्डर की तो कोई गलती नहीं है।
नहीं बिल्कुल गलती नहीं है, मत बेचे, 1 साल तक रख ले या बोनस मत ले। अगर उसको अपना भी टैक्स बचाना है तो शेयर मार्केट में पैसा इन्वेस्ट ही ना करे वो।
ऑलराइट।
कंपनी बोनस का मतलब खाली टैक्स थोड़ा ना होता है, कंपनी की और भी कंसिडरेशंस हैं। अगर एक शेयर की वैल्यू ज्यादा हो जाती है तो उसमें सिर्फ स्पेकुलेशन होनी शुरू हो जाती है। जेन्युइन इन्वेस्टर्स जो छोटे पैसे वाले लोग हैं, जो काफी टाइम के लिए कंपनी के साथ रहते हैं, वो आएंगे नहीं उसमें। 5,000 रुपए शेयर की वैल्यू हो जाएगी तो स्मॉल इन्वेस्टर्स जाएंगे नहीं उसमें, स्पेकुलेटर्स आ जाएंगे बस।
हाँ जी,
तो बोनस देना जरूरी है ताकि ईमानदार लोग आए या जो लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर्स हैं वो आए कंपनी में। तो सिर्फ टैक्स के लिए कंपनी डिसीजन थोड़ा ना लेगी बोनस दे या नहीं दे। जो शेयर होल्डर इतना कंसर्न है उसको आने नहीं चाहिए फिर यहाँ पर।
ऑलराइट।
Next point, kinds of capital gains. So this is my 7th heading, kinds of capital gain. There are 2 kinds of capital gains: short-term capital gain and long-term capital gain. Similarly, I can be having short-term capital loss or long-term capital loss. So where it is defined, section 2 clause 42b. So there is a section 2 clause. You can see the act later on. I have given you an idea how you can refer the act. 242b. Any capital gain which arises any capital gain which arises from the transfer of short-term capital asset is short-term capital gain as per section 42 clause 42b. Similarly, any loss which arises from the transfer of short-term capital asset is short-term capital loss. On the same lines, we have section 2 clause 29b. It says any gain which arises from the transfer of long-term capital asset is a long-term capital gain, and any loss which arises from the transfer of long-term capital asset is long-term capital loss. That's it. So this is my next stage. Once I know that whether the asset is long-term or short-term, now I will easily know whether the gain is long-term or short-term or the loss is long-term or short-term. It depends. When you sell long-term, you will be having long-term gain or long-term loss. When you sell short-term, you will be having short-term gain or short-term loss. This is my 7th heading. 8th heading now. How do you compute this? So computation is next stage. 8th heading. Mode of computation. It is my 8th heading. Section 48 tells me this. Section 48 tells me this, that if you are selling short-term capital asset, the way of calculation is different. If you are selling long-term asset, the way of calculation is different. So when you are selling short-term capital asset, the calculation is different. And when you are selling long-term capital asset, the calculation is different. Now logically, can you tell me how the gain is computed? Simple. Sale value minus expenses on sale like brokerage, commission, etc. minus cost of acquisition and so many times you do some improvement also, like if you are selling a house, you might incur some expenditures in paint, in some construction, etc., etc. So we call it as cost of improvement. The difference, if positive, and it is logical also, if the difference is positive, it is short-term capital gain, and if the difference is negative, it is short-term capital loss. Now in LTCA, what happens? Sale. Less expense on sale and now just imagine I purchased an asset in 2001-2 and I'm transferring it in 2020-21. Is it logical to take the cost when I purchased the asset in 2001-2? Is it logical? Can you unmute and reply? Just like here, when it is short-term capital asset, in short-term capital asset, the maximum delay can be what? Within cost, between purchase and sale, either the period is 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months. So your sale value, which is always today's value, because it is the most logical value, today's sale value, The cost can be maximum how many months old? How many months old maximum? 36 months. The improvement can be how much maximum old? 36 months. But in long term, my cost can be as old as 19 years. It's an example only. Suppose you have purchased the asset in 1967-68. It is possible that the cost might be 50 or 55 years old cost, which is little bit illogical. When we are taking the sale of today's value, don't you think that the more logical is that today's cost should be taken, or on an average the cost which resembles today's value? Old cost which was of the cost 19 years ago is not a reflection of current cost. So in long term, what we do, we convert our old cost into on an average today's cost. Had I purchased this asset today, what on an average cost would have been? So we don't write COA, we write ICA, indexed cost of acquisition. Similarly, we should convert this improvement also in on an average today's cost of improvement. We write ICI. Indexed cost of improvement. Difference, if positive, is long-term capital gain, and if negative is long-term capital loss. Now, are you satisfied with this reasoning on an average current cost? That in long term, this is the new point, indexed cost. Short-term calculation is simple. Sale is today's sale. Expense, of course, today's, because if sale is today, expense is today. Cost of acquisition, cost of improvement, these can be maximum 36 months old. At least, but still within 3 years back period. But in long term, old cost could have been 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 10 years ago, which is not logically correct. So in these cases, you convert old cost into new cost, and that is known as indexation, where you convert old into new. How do you convert it? That is another way. We take the benefit of the concept of indexation, cost inflation index. But is this calculation a little bit clear? If yes, please raise your hands. Very good. Now next point. Ninth point. Now do remember one thing. I am using the word cost. I'm not using actual cost. I'm using the word cost. So before I proceed further, you must remember that if I purchased any capital asset whose actual cost is 2 lakh, above I'm not using actual cost. As per the provisions of section 48, you are not concerned with actual cost, you are concerned with cost. It does not mean that it is actual cost. You have to compare this actual cost with some other value. You might have to compare this actual cost with some other value, and then you will take your decision whether actual cost will come here or the cost. In some cases, you don't have actual cost. So what you do first, you determine actual cost, then you determine cost. So you should understand this sequence or this tale, that when I will do the calculation, first I will see actual cost. After this, I will proceed to determine cost. And my short-term capital asset concept would be clear. But if it is long term, I have to go one more step up. I will compute indexed cost. It helps me in determining long-term capital asset sale. Do remember one thing. Income tax act in section 48 is using the word cost, not actual cost. So never get confused with actual purchase price. Whether that actual price will be used or not, it depends upon the provisions of the act. Now suppose if I purchased any asset in 1967 or 6970 for rupees 10,000 rupees, it is my actual cost which I paid from my pocket. But I am selling this asset in previous year 2021. Of course, the asset is long-term asset. I need indexed cost of acquisition. But before indexed cost of acquisition, I need to determine what. Can you tell me before computing indexed cost of acquisition what I will compute? Can you tell me what I will compute before computing indexed cost?
Actual cost.
No. Any other answer? Before computing indexed cost of acquisition, what I will compute? Can you tell me? Hurry up. Any answer before computing indexed cost of acquisition? What will I compute?
The cost of acquisition.
Cost of acquisition. And before computing cost of acquisition, what I must be having with me? Can you tell me?
Actual cost.
Actual cost. This sequence you should not forget. First, you see whether you have actual cost or not. If you have actual cost, then this stage is clear to you. You directly come to the cost of acquisition calculation. But if you don't have actual cost, you need to first determine actual cost. Then you will compute cost and then you will compute indexed cost. In long term, what happens? You have only these two steps. In short term, what happens? You have only these two steps. First, you determine actual cost if you don't have. If it is there, it is fine. If you don't have, determine it. And then you determine cost. Then you determine cost because you are not supposed to go to index cost and then your purpose is over. You can easily compute. You can easily do the calculation. The main purpose of explaining this to you is that do remember that section 48 is not using the word actual cost. You are not supposed to deduct actual cost. You are supposed to deduct cost, whether it is cost of acquisition or cost of improvement. So if you have actual cost, then you have to see as per the provisions which I will tell you in the next lecture that whether actual cost is cost or we have some other concept. So you must be having first actual cost with you, then you will move forward. Then I will see whether that what is the cost. So in determining the cost, I need the help of actual cost, but I cannot say that actual cost is the cost of acquisition. No, I have to apply the concept. Just like I have shown you this sixth heading, how to determine the holding period of the capital asset. I will show you, I will tell you how to first determine the actual cost. Then I will tell you how to determine the cost, and then I will tell you how to determine the indexed cost. So these three concepts are separate. First, I will tell you how to determine actual cost. Then I will tell you in next heading how to determine cost. And then I will tell you in next heading how to determine indexed cost. Is this structure clear? If yes, please raise your hands. You must be having this picture in your mind, 100% clear picture in your mind. Only then you will commit or solve the questions which will be without any mistake. First, I will determine actual cost, then I will determine cost, and then I will determine indexed cost. So my next heading will be what? Last heading was mode of computation. So before computing these short term or long term, I have to learn 3 headings: how to determine actual cost, how to determine cost, and how to determine indexed cost. So my next heading will be what? How to determine the actual cost of the capital asset. I'm not using the word cost of acquisition, that is next stage. Let us first do how to determine the actual cost. I'm not writing cost, actual cost of the capital asset with reference to certain modes of acquisition. So now I will discuss this section 49. This is what my heading of section 49 is. If you are having the actual cost, then your first stage is clear. If I know that at what rate I purchased it, then I'm not supposed to do this heading. But in so many circumstances, you become the owner of the asset, not by paying the amount, but by free. Just like section 49 subsection 1 was there, when I didn't pay anything. So I didn't have any actual cost. Still I became the owner of the asset. Do you remember that case?
Yes, sir.
Let me show you that. This was that case. Like Mr. B. Mr. B, in that example, when I was discussing with you how to determine holding period, that was my first example. Mr. B became the owner on 7th December 19 without paying anything. So in the same example, when I determine holding period in the same example, now in the next class, I will tell you how to determine the actual cost of Mr. B. Section 49 covers those, as the name suggests, certain modes. When you have purchased any asset, then you are not supposed to do this heading. You know actual cost. But in so many circumstances, you get the asset without purchasing it. So in those cases, how do you determine the actual cost? This I will discuss with you in the next class. So for today's discussion, I think it's sufficient. Many thanks. And I hope you are in festival mode or mood, you can say. But you have to study income tax, and in these holidays, not holidays as such, you have to read income tax in detail. So that's all from my side. Goodbye for today, and we will meet tomorrow. Those who are having any doubt, they please stay, rest, can leave. Goodbye.